near the Pinhoti southern terminus on a trail called the Coosa Trail. And this is a section of the Alabama road walk portion of the Eastern Continental Trail. So I am finally knocking out another piece of the ECT. For those of y'all who have been watching this channel for a while, you know that completing the Eastern Continental Trail is something I aspire to do in section hikes. And it's kind of funny because some of the section hikes that I've done already of the Eastern Continental Trail include the Florida Trail, the Pinhoti Trail, and the Appalachian Trail, because it spans from Key West all the way up through those trails and then through Maine up into Canada. So I figured I'd start in Florida and come on up through Alabama up to the southern terminus of the Pinhoti Trail because, you know, once a no-bo, always a no-bo. But I have been wanting to do something for a while that somebody suggested in a comment, and that is camp with my day hiking gear. And because I knew this little piece of the Alabama roadwalk section actually had trail on it, I decided to come start with the Coosa Trail. I just want to say thank you to all of the trail maintainers, because there are none on this trail. So the fact that I haven't had to walk through this mess on every trail I've ever done, very much appreciate y'all. And I'm all about some getting the trail off the road walk, but not when it's this. I'd rather be on the road than be bushwhacking. And gymnasticking. Now where's the trail go? Where's the blaze? Good thing I got all trails. So what do I mean by camping with my day hiking gear? Well, just what it sounds like. There are certain things that people put in their packs when they go day hiking to go out for a trek during the day, and they don't really have intentions of staying the night, but sometimes things happen and you end up with an unintentional overnight stay. So it's always said that people should pack out with them to the trail the 10 essentials of hiking, and I've done a specific video outlining what all of that is. Those cover your bases to where if you end up having a night out in the woods when you're not intending to, you at least have the things that you need to survive. But I feel like with the 10 essentials of hiking, and I've been guilty of this myself, most people go with the absolute bare minimum because everyone thinks, well, that's not gonna happen to me. You know, I'm experienced and I can't get lost out in the woods, especially on trails I've been on before. And that's probably mostly true for folks. They'll go through their whole life of being in the outdoors and, you know, never have a search and rescue situation. But you should know that most of the people that have a search and rescue situation are day hikers. Now, you could argue that there are more day hikers than backpackers, and I'll give you that. But still, I feel like most people probably don't actually go out and practice with their stuff and see how comfortable or uncomfortable they would be. So that's what I'm out here doing. About 3 years ago, I made a video telling y'all exactly what I carry in my day pack. And so I have all of those items out here today. The only thing that's a little bit different is I do have a different pack now. I've got the Moment Stroll Mountain Light 45 liter. I believe I said all of those words in the right order. But I started carrying this after Mount Kilimanjaro because with all of the camera equipment that I carry, this pack just makes more sense for me than the little REI pack, the Flash 22 that I had before. So the only additional item I have with me this time is I've got a Columbia PFG button-up shirt. It's not super warm, but on days like today where the high was about 71 and the low is probably gonna be around 59 or so, because I might get a little sweaty and then chilly during the day, I carry that button-up shirt and typically start off in a short sleeve shirt just so I could swap out if I want to. That's a bat. You are a little bat. Wait, don't go away. Come back. Come back. God, he's so fast. Hey, buddy. We gonna play tag? I believe the sun has just about set. And to be honest, it makes sense that I should not hike for a little while, or at least not set up camp until I get in the dark. I feel like setting up in the light would be kind of cheating, because let's be real, most people who get lost out in the wilderness are probably gonna search for their way back to a known location at least, 30 minutes into dark, right? Like, most people aren't gonna stop and go, okay, I'm lost, I'm just gonna use my 10 essentials of hiking and start trying to figure it out tomorrow. And if they've covered their bases well, they probably should stop before they make bad decisions in the dark and get even more lost or injured. But that's just the real life situation. So it kind of works out that I was late and that I won't be setting up until after dark. If that thing goes on all night, I definitely won't get any sleep. You're ruining my nature experience. It's so cool, the different critters that hang out together. Unlikely couple. Play the game of locate blazes. Oh. Go on now, bug. All right. Oof, this thing is sleek. Okay. Feet don't fail me now. All right, cleared up a little bit more. I will take it. Oh, and a spider web to the face. Couldn't really tell if the trail was supposed to continue across that way or that way. And I don't see any blazes. Oh, actually, yes I do. I read one way over there. But what I noticed first is when I turned around, there was that blaze. So it seemed like, since it was painted at this angle, that like directly across should be where I'd go. Just a little tip of how I try to figure out where I'm going anyway. Always good to find water. Of course, I've got a little over 2 liters with me, and I hadn't drank any, which isn't good. tarp I have with me is the Mountain Laurel Designs Pro Rain Tarp, and I used it while I was hiking out in the Tetons National Park, and I used it for a night on the Pinhoti Trail, but it was just so miserably cold. I aborted that mission, but I do have a little bit of practice with it. I think it's as good as you can get as far as rain gear mixed with a shelter goes. But I can already say that it's important to remember how to set up your shelter, or if you've got some kind of makeshift shelter like a trash bag, it's important to know how you're going to rig that up in the middle of the woods when it starts raining on you, and you don't want to get wet before you have no sleeping bag to sleep in. You don't want to go to bed with soaking wet clothes and soaking wet hair. Yeah, that's one thing that I'm already noticing that I wish I had done, is refresh my brain on how to set it up. Oh. My floor is just a lightweight, cheap emergency blanket, so I could ball up in this thing if I wanted to. I'm thinking I'll probably just lay on top of it, but I don't know, I might wrap my legs in it a little bit anyway. But these weigh nothing, and it would be crazy, in my opinion, to not carry this in your pack, even if you had nothing else. Well, I can definitely say that I wish I had another pair of socks, like I had brought an extra pair, because from walking through the wet brush where everything's grown up, my toes are damp. Well, really my whole feet. Tonight for dinner, I am having mushroom risotto and some sleepy time tea. Normally, I probably wouldn't in particular have sleepy time tea, but some kind of herbal tea and certainly some extra food, whether that would be an extra meal. I'm very appreciative of a hot meal right now, or extra snacks, but
one of the 10 essentials of hiking is to always have extra food and extra water, more than you think you'll need for your day hike. So this is 3.4 ounces. So throw in something like this in your food bag just in case, if you're somebody that's going to be out on trail cooking lunch. And I really enjoy cooking a warm lunch or having some coffee at lunchtime while I'm day hiking. So I do typically have my fuel stove and food pot. So throwing something like this in there, a few more ounces, is not a big deal and would really pay off in this kind of situation where I'm overnighting.
It's very interesting to think about, because in the world of backpacking, this would be like the most minimalist shelter that somebody would want to use, because, you know, it's your rain gear and also your shelter, and that makes some people nervous. But in the world of survival and being in an emergency situation, this is probably overkill for some people. Most folks are not going to spend the money to have something like this in their day pack, and you know, carrying something like a big old blue tarp would be smart if you're not going to carry this, but it's going to be a lot heavier. So a lot of people are like, well, I'll just get by and use my pack liner as my shelter if I need to in a situation. And I'm not saying that that wouldn't be better than nothing, but I'm super grateful to have this tonight. My perspective shifted a little bit in 2017 when I was through hiking the PCT as far as what I'd want to have in an emergency situation that's reasonable for the area and climate that I'm hiking. And what happened was, one night, 3 of us thru hikers were camped out on Mount San Jacinto in the emergency shelter. It had taken us longer than we had expected to get up the mountain, and we just thought it'd be better to overnight in the shelter rather than going down, getting lost in the snow, and, you know, just kind of having ourselves in a mess. So we stayed up there. In the middle of the night, we heard some hollering going on, and finally these 2 guys showed up at the emergency shelter, and they were just all the way freaked out. One of them just about passed out immediately once he got in there and got warm, but they had been stuck out in the freezing cold, in the crazy wind, and while they were dressed pretty warm, they had on decent coats and pants and mountaineering boots, they were not in a situation to overnight on the mountain. They had planned to do this really long trek. They had run behind on their schedule, and they knew the emergency shelter was up there, so they were trying to find it. But all of their electronics were dead. They had no food, they had no water, they had no makeshift shelter. So they felt really lucky when not only they found the shelter, but they ran into some thru hikers who were able to scrounge up some extra food, water. We let them charge their electronics, etc. But I decided, you know, I don't ever want to be in a situation like that where I can't take care of myself in a pinch. All right, well, I am all kind of wrapped up like a baked potato in this emergency blanket, and using my pack as a pillow. I'm about to try to drift off to sleepy land. See how this works. Good night. Well, good morning. I lived. I did get a little cold at some points in the night, for sure. This emergency blanket, if I hadn't had it, I would have froze. It's wide enough for me that I was able to wrap up in it like a burrito. But I noticed when I lay on my left side that the gap would kind of come open. So if I could tuck it all the way under and lay on my stomach, it was better, or on my right side. But it might not hurt to carry 2 of these. That would have made me much more comfortable, because then I would have had one on the ground and I wouldn't have been worried about it opening up and me laying on the ground and being too cold or getting too damp. But just one, even. Just having one, it was nice. Now keep in mind, I am very much a cold sleeper.
and it was probably around 60 degrees. Most people might not have been as cold, but the thing that was most nerve-wracking to me was making sure that I didn't get wet. So having this tarp out a little bit wider and maybe even a little bit lower would have made me more comfortable, but I didn't get wet. Nothing got wet of my stuff that I was worried about getting wet. I had everything kind of in Ziploc bags and waterproof. So all in all, not a terrible night for all things considered. I mean, it's super uncomfortable not having a sleeping pad, but we survive in here. This isn't about luxury.
Last night when I set up, I really could not tell where the trail was because everything's so overgrown, and when you're looking at it in a headlamp, you can't really tell. But apparently I slept right on the trail, and it's amazing how in the daylight I can tell such a difference. Even though things are still overgrown, I can clearly see where the trail goes. But that just goes to show you that while I was not lost, you can see things much more clearly in the daytime, be it an animal path that you could get down easier than bushwhacking, or landmarks, etc.
Another thing I always bring on a day hike is my Sawyer squeeze, and that is for multiple reasons. Most of the time I'm carrying how much water I think I'm gonna need, but you never know, it could be a little bit hotter than you expected. The hike could take longer than you thought it would, or you just might be more thirsty. So, oh man.
Another piece of equipment I feel like it would be an injustice to not mention is a personal locator beacon, or an inReach device, some sort of satellite device where you can call for help if you need it. And I just can't help but think that having something like that definitely increases your chance of surviving an emergency situation or being lost, because you can communicate with people. You can let them know your location, even if it's as simple as just a personal locator beacon that allows you to push an SOS button. You're much better off than hoping that somebody notices you've gone missing or that you haven't returned on time and they call for help. But then even still, does the help know exactly where to look to find you? So on all of my hikes, I carry my inReach Mini. Even on the short day hiking stuff where I think there's no way I'm gonna get lost. I'm familiar with this area, but I take it anyway. One, in case I'm wrong and I do end up lost. Two, in case myself or somebody else becomes injured and I don't have cell service. And three, maybe I wanna hang out longer than I had originally let my at-home contact think that I was gonna stay. So it's important to have somebody at home that you tell your tentative plans to, where you're gonna park, where you're gonna be hiking, when you think you'll return. That way, if they don't hear from you, then they can send somebody out looking for you. So with the inReach, if I don't have cell service, I can still contact her and say, hey, I found this cool little spot that I'm gonna take a really long lunch and then a nap. So I'm not gonna be home at 5 o'clock like I expected. And then that makes me not feel so rushed. I get to enjoy my time more, and you know, my mom certainly appreciates it. Behold, Mitchell Lake. And apparently there's a shelter down here somewhere. I found it. What a pretty view. Gotta check for wasps. I knew this thing probably had wasps. Just under 2 miles to the southern terminus of the Pinhoti Trail. So I will have extended my footsteps a little bit more along the ECT, and I'm gonna keep on with this ECT section fill-in adventure. But this was a great little overnight with my day hiking gear. I do feel better about what I have, and that when I go out on day hikes, if I have the things that I had last night and today, that I'll at least live. I'll at least have a good chance at coming out alive. I was not certainly as comfortable as I would have been if I had had my full backpacking loadout, but again, this is, you know, for emergency situations, and I do think that I have better than the bare minimum. But I would say this is a practice that I would recommend to everybody. Even if it's in your backyard, that you test out your day hiking gear, you know, in the same type of climate and temperatures that you'd be day hiking in. One, I just think it'll do a lot for you mentally. If you do find yourself in that predicament, hey, I've been here with this same stuff before. I have done this before. So just having a bit of familiarity. And then two, showing you, you know, do you need to upgrade? Do you have what you need? And that way, if you do find yourself in that situation down the road, you will have what you need. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Good dog.